Hello, thank you very much for being here. This is so exciting slash nerve-wracking. That's me. That is my own voice reverberating. I knew that would happen. Okay, fine. Thank you. Anyway, there's a fear after a year of virtual events that nobody would want to come anymore, that we've all had our fill, and we'd rather be out in the sun or watching the Euros build up. But you are here, I can see that. So those concerns have gone. And then it's exciting just to be really part of this event, because if you're here, I'm hoping that you're going to leave inspired, learn something new, or get a new perspective. And that, for me, is an amazing thing to be part of. My name is Helen Drummond, and I work at the London Academy of Excellence, designing and delivering Chrysalis East, which is our new donor-funded outreach project. A huge thanks goes to Highgate School for providing us with a community that would make such a donation. It says a lot about the ethos of our sister school and the values of its parents. The donation was made on the back of the Black Lives Matter protests in the summer, following the murder of George Floyd, when people started looking more closely at racial inequality in America, in the UK, but also that inequity here in Haringey, though actually it was always in plain sight. Students in East Haringey, so Tottenham and Wood Green, perform less well than those in the more affluent and more white West. Only 3 in 10 of our Caribbean students will get a 5 in both English and maths at GCSE. Students here face more barriers on their journey to success than others do. And LAT is dedicated to changing that. We're an academically selective sixth form that you hopefully will know about, and supporting all of our students to attain at the highest level. But we know that many students in Tottenham who have the potential to make the grades that they don't, and they should. And so Chrysalis East is all about finding and nurturing those students, identifying and overcoming the socioeconomic structural barriers that exist and that stand in their way. So with this donation, we're now working closely with our 4 nearest local secondary schools, all of whom I think are represented here tonight in the audience. We've got local primary schools, and we really just want to support a larger cohort of students to be at LAT, and if not at LAT, just to thrive in whatever capacity they go on to. So to add to the work we're doing in schools, and that's why we're here tonight, we also want to open ourselves up a little bit to the community, becoming a positive contributor to Tottenham and work with you to tackle educational inequality. So take parents, for example, naturally a huge influence on their children, our students. But sometimes for lots of our parents, it can be hard to navigate our education system, the slightly quirky university application system, or know the best paths for career success and where to find support. So we want to provide a forum for that. We're like events that just really take the lid off what's going on inside school and what are we talking about with our students and why. And how actually together, as that example, parents and schools can support your children much better than we can on our own. Some events that we're going to hold as part of our sort of these community events for Chrysalis East are designed, like tonight, to show you what success might look like and inspire us all to achieve the same. And some will be more practical. So, for example, the next event in October is on understanding adolescent mental health. Tonight is special though. Firstly, because we're here celebrating Tottenham and its unique and creative talent that exists, but also in honour of our donation and Black Lives Matter. It felt right to me and the wonderful head of careers, Mr. Onyedo, who is here as well, to start with a celebration of Black leaders and Black business. And what a lineup we have. Starting with our very own student president, Rachel Olaledi Oyemi, who'll be leading the conversation. She is our founder of the LAT's Black Society. And then speaking to her tonight, we have, and thanks to them, sorry, I haven't even thanked you yet for being here. Amazing panel. Thank you for giving up your time. Firstly, we've got Mickela Hall-Ramsay, who is the founder and director of the HR Sports Academy, which I know lots of you will know, provided sporting opportunities for around 45,000 students since inception. But more recently, she's become the chair of the London Youth Games. She is the youngest ever chair and the first person to chair of ethnic minority. What a role model. Joseph Nwosu is next. By day, an analyst at Experian, but in his spare time, created the podcast Black Millennial Money, on a mission to make sure that the Black community secure more wealth. A poignant topic, perhaps, in Tottenham, where gentrification of the area is already pricing residents out. And Mecca Frederic next, previously a management consultant. I read that on LinkedIn today because I didn't have anything about you. With a host of corporates, it seems, but now co-owner of Nigerian tapas restaurant Chukwu's on Tottenham High Road. An amazing review that Grace Dent wrote in the Guardian I read. But I have a feeling that Chukwu's might be about a lot more than just food. And continuing our food vibes, last but not least is Nadra Uman, who's only 24 years old, our youngest panelist. She, unfortunately, losing her job at the start of the pandemic was the motivation for the topic she's going to talk about tonight, breakfast at Najma's. That was her dream, and that was what made her follow it. But I also found out today that she's a founder of Female Muslim Creatives a few years ago. So these are definitely overachievers. I feel like I shouldn't be talking anymore because I am not worthy. So I'm going to hand over to Rachel. If you have any comments or questions, you can put them in YouTube and I'll relay them back to the panel. Keep in touch with us. If you have ideas for other events that you think that we should be running, then let us know. But yeah, enjoy. Thank you very much for being here, and I'll pass over to Rachel.
Thank you so much. So as Helen said, we literally have amazing individuals here today to come and talk to us. And I am so excited to have these panelists here to come and talk to us. So we're going to start with Najwa. And we're going to go around asking them 3 questions to start with. If at any point you guys need me to reiterate the questions, and I will. But Najwa, could you tell us a bit about you? So where you grew up, your education, your early ambitions, and then how did you get started with your business? And what challenges have you faced, particularly as like a Black owner?
Hi guys, I'm Najwa. Nice to meet everyone. First of all, thank you so much for on this panel. It's really, really exciting. I've grown up in Tottenham literally since I was about 3. On business. So I started my business last year, and it's been quite a whirlwind of a journey. My business is called Breakfast at Najwa's. I do takeaway, brunch, and breakfast. And the initial idea for it kind of just started off by me wanting to have kind of ownership over my own like finances. Wait, I realized I didn't say much about myself actually. So wait, I grew up in Tottenham. I went to a school called Northumberland Park Community School. I think now it's changed to Duke of Aldridge. It was very extremely humble beginnings. And whilst I was at school, I think I dreamt of doing loads of different things. Like I wanted to get into acting. I wanted to get into food. Like I have a wide range of interests. And the main thing for me is just not feeling tied down. I think in like nowadays, people kind of give you this idea of having one dream career, and I don't have one dream career. So for me, the aim is to just be able to dabble in everything that I want to do, whether it just stays as a hobby or it becomes a career is very like decisive to me. So that's a bit about like my kind of early ambitions. I did go to university. I went for 1 year. I went and did politics and international relations. And it was okay. Like it was, for me, it wasn't challenging enough. I think I love the idea of education. I think it's so powerful. I love learning, but I think the format of studying politics at a London university was just not exciting enough for me, and I didn't feel like I was learning enough. So I did leave university, and I didn't have any plans to start a career off by myself, but I had actual plans to go back to university. But on my little 1 year off university, I ended up starting like a art collective called Female Muslim Creatives. And from there, I ended up doing loads of different events. So what I'm trying to explain is that like I have always just kind of gone off what felt right, and I haven't really done the traditional route in any sense other than going to college after secondary school. And then getting into business. So like I said, my business is called Breakfast at Najwa's. I started it in August of last year. And we just do takeaway meals. The way I kind of got into it was like Rachel explained, that I got let go from my job. So as the pandemic was starting, I had like a new job. I was like, I think 2 months into it. It was going really well. And then the pandemic hit and everyone was on furlough. So I was on furlough for about 6 months. And during that time, it was the beginning of the pandemic. So there was no real clear like route for everyone. Nobody knew if they'd keep their jobs. Nobody knew if like there was any real future for them in like a stable job. So I started thinking about like backup plans and what I could do if this job fell through. And so I thought about starting a breakfast business. It's very easy. At the time, a lot of businesses that were doing takeaways were doing quite well. And I have a passion for food. I've always had a passion for mainly like brunch. So I thought it might be the right time to just give it a go. Like, so I saved my last few furlough checks. I invested it all into my business. I bought all the packaging, literally everything I needed to start it up. I didn't have absolutely everything. Like ideally you'd have everything you ever need for the business. But I knew I would make it back in the first couple months at least. So I just gave it a shot and it did really, really well. So yeah, I think that's just kind of like how I started my business. In terms of challenges, I think for me, the main challenge, funnily enough, it wasn't starting the business, because I think by that point in like my life, it's been 4 years since I left university and decided that I was going to just try things out. I've had to start my own thing a lot during my process. And I think for a lot of people that are starting a business, that's usually the first hurdle that they have to overcome. Is like being able to believe in yourself and being able to just like start something from nothing. But for me, because I've done that a few times, it was okay. Is my connection okay for you guys? It's saying that it's a bit weak, but,
You're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so for me, the main challenges I think were surrounding money. So as I started my business, I thought it wasn't going to do as well as it did, but it ended up doing really well. And it kind of forced me to reframe my like hopes for it. I thought it would be one of those things that you start off really small and then it slowly glides up. But what happened was that it did the opposite. So it went really did really well really quickly, that I wasn't prepared for. So I think for me, yeah, it was more about like learning to see better for yourself and see more for yourself. And I learned that if I wasn't preparing for my success, I was preparing for my failure. So yeah, I think that was my main challenge. And then also being a Black Brit, and as an immigrant, I think we have a really negative view of like money. So I had a very like scarcity mindset. I was prepared more for it to go badly than I was for it to do really well. So having to like overcome that was really difficult, and having to like figure out that, okay, maybe I should expand, because I didn't think I would have to expand so soon. So yeah, I think for me, it was more of like the mental hurdles more than anything. I think I was pretty prepared for anything to go wrong, but I wasn't really prepared for anything to go right. So that's kind of like my kind of story with my business that I started during the pandemic. But yeah, if you have any questions, let me know, but that should be everything about me.
Thank you, Najwa. That was really insightful and already really inspiring. So next we have Joseph.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It's great to be here with you guys today. I feel like this is a really, really great room to be in tonight. So to get started, my background, so I grew up in Tottenham. So I grew up in an estate called Ida. Don't know if some of you may remember that estate. Some of you might not. It's near West Green Road. And I went to secondary school. I went to Tommy Moore in Wood Green. And there was a time where being from Tottenham and going to school in Wood Green was a bit problematic when I was in secondary school. So there was some challenging times there. And honestly, towards the end of my GCSEs, I started to get academically distracted, let's just say. So I managed to get 12 GCSEs, which was what I was meant to get, but I ended up not getting the grades I was supposed to. I was supposed to get straight A's. I got a lot of B's and C's. And then that sort of carried on into A level. So I stayed at sixth form at St. Thomas More, and literally my grades spelled U. at the end of it. After 2 years, I got 2 E's and a U, basically. And I got into uni based on clearing. My sister helped me get in because I had no idea what I was going to do. She said, in this family, we go to uni because she had gone, my parents had gone, and that's where I was going to go. So I ended up going to Kingston. And that was probably one of the best moments of my life because I got to get out of Tottenham. I don't know about some of you, when you're in Tottenham, sometimes it feels a bit heavy and you feel like the whole world is just from like Seven Sister Station to Tottenham Football Stadium. Like the world sort of revolves around that I don't know, 2 to 3 miles, or it might not even be 3 miles, but that stretch of land, it feels like that's the entire world. And going to uni in Kingston, where I would get off the train and it's like, I can hear birds and they're not pigeons, and the air is fresh and there's grass and people, you don't have to look like you're unhappy for people to take you seriously. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So I really had a good time at uni, and it was transformative for me because it broadened my perspectives. It took me out of Haringey, it took me out of Tottenham, and showed me how other people could live. Like the idea of having a house on the River Thames was like, that doesn't make sense. Who does that? But there were people there. And I worked in John Lewis when I was there, and I was seeing Lamborghinis, Aston Martins, every type of Range Rover was parked in this car park. I was like, huh. So there's just people who casually drive Bentleys to go get apples and oranges and all of this. I was like, this is the life I need to be seeing. So that was me growing up and getting through my academics. I went on to work in sales. I worked at Ford, I worked at Mercedes, and transitioned into marketing while I was there because I didn't enjoy the sales side of things. But working for Mercedes, the perks were that you drove every single car, every car. I've had Jeeps, I've had convertibles. It was amazing being there. But after that, I transitioned into marketing, and I've been working at Experian ever since. But in that journey, the thing that really led me to start my business is because we grew up and there wasn't a lot of money. Like I used to have to save up to buy ice cream, and even then, it would take me a couple of weeks because I came from a house where popcorn pocket money wasn't an option. Pocket money was like, yeah, we'll give you pocket money, and then like you get it like twice a year, and and you'd have to remind them, and it would never be right because we just didn't have the money. So when it came to looking at what I could do and trying to think about business, I had made a bunch of mistakes trying to start businesses in the past, and nothing worked because I wasn't particularly focused. I wasn't playing to my strengths. And I had managed to get myself into £36,000 worth of debt as well, trying to dibble and dabble, think about business, but also trying to do drip or drown. So um, every time you go out, you need a new outfit. You can't repeat clothes. You can't, and just feeling like you needed to keep up with who that person was. I had no idea, but I had a feeling that everyone was keeping track of what I was wearing. So every time I left the house, it needed to be a different outfit, which ultimately led to me ending up in a lot of debt. But fast forward, I managed to sort of get my head in the game when it came to my finances, and I paid off all of that money in about 2.5 years. Ended up getting a big pay rise at work, and I'm sitting on my own property now. So I moved out of London. I bought a place in Milton Keynes with my fiance, and everything seems to be perfect now. But the journey to it was what led me into looking at what kind of business I could start. And I knew I had to play to my strengths, which is talking. Some of you may realize I talk. And um, a podcast seemed like a great way to share my experience, but to share the things I had learned and to make sure that other people could benefit from this sort of trial and error way of managing money that we have, where it's like, yeah, you grow up and everyone expects you to know what your credit score is and know how to budget and know, like, the idea that you have to pay for water is new in so many ways when you get your own property. It's just like, doesn't that just come out of the tap? And I thought there's a way we can do this, and there's a way this can be a business, and a way I can actually use to support people, which is what led me to start Black Millennial Money, which is where, as Helen described it, we talk about how you can make, keep, invest, and spend your money on the finer things in life, all from a Black millennial perspective. And you can like and subscribe, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. But we ended 2020 as a top 30 business podcast in the UK, and that was a huge surprise to me, given that we started in April. And the pandemic helped my business, and it helped my business in a lot of ways because people were at home with nothing to do. So everyone that was trying to get on my podcast was all of a sudden available, which was good. But it meant I had to be creative about how I recorded. So I started to learn how to record on Zoom and all of these things, and find dynamic ways to solve problems. So knowing that I had to record with a headset because the audio in the first ones was atrocious, and knowing all sorts of different things, learning how to edit, learning how to distribute the content on different ways, knowing how to market and promote it, and thinking about ways of monetizing it. So written a book, there's a training course coming out, we have a Patreon, we are taking on advertisers, and it's now becoming more of a business almost just over a year in. And in terms of the challenges I faced, what I do being digital was a little bit easier because it wasn't like I had to shut down. I started off recording in a studio. I had to figure out how to record online, but that wasn't a massive hurdle. The thing that I found most interesting is that people are surprised at how serious I am. Like, like, bro, I can't believe you're still doing that podcast, you know? And I think there's an element of it where, like, in our community, in the Black community, people are like, oh yeah, everyone starts something. Like, you'll meet someone and they've got like 4 different titles: entrepreneur of this, CEO of that, founder of this, and a shareholder and stock market investor of this. And ultimately, it's like all of those things are sort of bedroom situations that may or may not exist tomorrow. What we don't have is like that a long legacy of people starting stuff, sticking to it, building it, growing it, and continuing to own it. And I think when it comes to what we should be doing from a Black business perspective, why it's important is ultimately for us to actually have a generation of people where we have a business class, a merchant class in the Black community at scale. Because a lot of the businesses we have now were survival businesses. They were kind of struggle businesses, and they sort of look that way today, where the shop that opened or the business that was established 10, 15, 20 years ago, it's still the same. Like, nothing has changed. They haven't grown. They're still open, thankfully, but they haven't managed to go beyond where just trying to be in business and make enough money to survive. And I think ultimately what we need to do in our generation is figure out how we can build wealth as individuals, but also how we can build a business and legacies for the people that follow us to come on to build upon. So that's me. That's my take on it, and it's great to be here. Looking forward to sharing more with you guys.
Thank you, Joseph. That was amazing. A lot of what you said resonated with me. I feel like financial literacy is a big thing within the Black community. So I really respect what you're doing. I really feel like these issues should be talked about. So big respect to you. And yeah, that talk has literally ground shaking for real. Like, amazing. Okay, next is Mickela.
Hi guys. When Helen introduced Najwa and she was like, oh, it's the youngest one of the panel, she's 24. I was like, hold on, my. It's like, oh yeah, 34. So that was like like back to reality, like great stuff. And I resonate with the water stuff, Joseph. When I got my property, whenever I came back home to like see my parents or I'd stay over, I was like, brush my teeth, make sure I turn off the water when I'm washing the dishes, because I know how much it costs now. But my name's Mickela Hall-Ramsay. I am the founder of HR Sports Academy, which is a community interest company that uses sports to empower children and young people. So we do a wide range of activities for 3-year-olds up to 23-year-olds. So delivering sports, but we also do educational stuff as well, and employability activities, providing loads of opportunities to really support young people and allow them to positively develop and thrive. I grew up in Tottenham. I love it here. It does feel like home. I moved to Waltham Forest, but I say like I sleep in Waltham Forest and I live in Tottenham because my business is based here. My parents and my family and friends, a lot of them are still here, so I'm always here. I went to school in Tottenham, so my school's closed down. It was called the John Loughborough School, and it was a very unique school whereby in 1980 Black parents had created a school basically to support their children. And for me, only after leaving it and hearing the experiences from my peers, I realized how beneficial it was that I went to that school. I used to cuss my parents all the time, like, the school's small, the school's rubbish. Like, I could have gone to Gladesmore or Tommy Moore or wherever else, and it would have been much bigger. We had like 300 children in the school, which was smaller than my primary school. But I think seeing the head teacher being Black and having a lot of teachers that were able to relate to me really, really helped me in my development. And I loved sports. I was part of every single team, captained quite a few of them as well. But I also loved maths, and I wanted to be an accountant. So I went to college and I did accounts, economics, uses of maths and ICT and psychology, and absolutely dropped sports because I thought sports isn't a professional career. I'm not going to make a lot of money from it. So I need to get serious. And I hated accounts. I absolutely hated it. I think one of the best decisions I made was to actually go that path so I could realize that it wasn't for me. And I think while I was at college, I came across a saying, choose something you love and you'll never have to work again in your life. And I realized that I wasn't enjoying it. Part of it was because I didn't really get along with my teacher. You should never let your teachers affect your education, but it did really affect me. It happened. But I also realized me stopping playing sports, me not studying sports, there was a massive void in my life. So I decided to switch back to sports. And when I decided to go to university and study sports science. And I absolutely loved it. A lot of my education or my research there focused on how sports could positively develop young people, simply because I realized how much it had affected me at college. Like, my grades dropped, I wasn't as social as I used to be, etc., etc. And during the second year at university, my sister passed away. She had Down syndrome, and she just suddenly died. Like, literally went into hospital one Friday, and then the next Friday I woke up and she was no longer alive. And it was like 4 days before my 20th birthday. So it was a massive shock to the system. And again, the fact that I loved what I was studying at university, that was my outlet. And at the time, youth crime was really, really high in the area. So obviously it's not as bad as it is now, but back then it was like terrible. And I noticed that one thing that sports had provided me was a safe environment. I would like literally finish school, run home, collect my sports bag, and then go down to training. At the weekends, I was in Exeter, Ipswich, like literally all over the place. I had my friends and family supporting. So even if they didn't play sports, they were there supporting me. And I realized that the government had taken away a lot of these opportunities. So I really just wanted to give back to the young people. So in my final year at university, I noticed a company called United, and I applied for a personal grant to just put on an event for young people. And I was successful, got the money, and I absolutely loved it. And I think that's what ignited the whole, oh, I like this being a boss thing. And I had been coaching since I was 15, so I did it for work experience, and I then volunteered, and I then started coaching like paid. So I've been in the industry as kind of like a worker for 19 years. And so in 2008, I set up the business. In 2010, I decided, you know what, I'm in a job again that I don't like, and that whole choose a job you like and you'll never have to work a day in your life again popped back into my head. And I thought, you know what, I've got so much experience. So I did a master's as well in sports management. I thought, I'm young enough to take a risk. So I registered my company as a CIC. My mum had recently set up a CIC, so community interest company, in memory of my sister. So I had her to support me, knowing that I was going to leave my job. I literally saved up all my paychecks. So because I knew I was going to have like a massive drop in income. So that year I literally just saved like crazy. I'll transfer like all my money, all my salary into a savings account and like have £200. So anybody was like, oh, Mickela, you want to do this? You want to do it? Like, broke. Like literally I'm broke, because I knew what the next goal was. And it's so, yeah, 11 years later, still going strong. I'm now I've got a team of amazing people, going to the challenges. I would say people at first. So at the beginning, it was like me and 10 basketballs, and that worked. But obviously, to expand, I needed to employ people. And there were times where I didn't have the right staff, and that would really jeopardize the service that I'm trying to provide. So I would say that was a massive challenge. And again, in the infancy, funding. So we can apply for grants, but also when we're working, say, with schools and we're invoicing people, if they weren't paying us in time, then obviously it's going to affect me paying for venue hire or rent or my salary or etc. So I'd say income was a challenge. Capacity as well. So I am a control freak. Hello, my name is Mickela. I'm a control freak. I'm trying to control that. And I just take on too many things. So like I'll have the staff there, but it's like, oh, it needs to be perfect. And I haven't got time to sit down and talk to you. So I'm just going to do it. And then the work-life balance kind of like gets missed, and yeah, sometimes you don't enjoy it as much as you should be. So I think that capacity building has definitely been a challenge, and taking on clients that are hard work and getting lost doing the job for them, as opposed to growing and scaling up the business because I've been too invested in them. But over the years, I've learned a lot. I've achieved a lot. So I'm a multi-award winning entrepreneur, and also is my business. And I've recently been announced as the chair for the London Youth Games, which is Europe's largest youth tournament. And I'm the youngest chair. So yes, I'm the youngest of that. And the first from an ethnic minority background, and the first that was actually a participant in the games as well. So that's enough about me. I feel like I've gone over 5 minutes, so I apologize.
No need for apologies, because I'm inspired. That's honestly amazing. I too see sport as like a really important outlet. So I feel you on that. And also the control freak thing, because yeah, that's also a problem of mine. But thank you so much, Mickela. That was really inspiring. And last but not least, we have Emeka.
Good evening, all. I'm Emeka Frederick. Pleasure to go last. I've had the opportunity to listen to a number of inspirational people before me, and as people were talking, I was making notes, because I was like, oh, so many kind of themes which were just kind of chiming with things that I'm maybe going to say. So I might just try to touch on a couple of things that people have said, and that just resonated with me from a number of different people. My name, as I mentioned, my name is Emeka Frederick. I'm the co-founder of Chukwu's. We are the award-winning Nigerian tapas restaurant, the world's first Nigerian tapas restaurant as well, and by that very token, London's first Nigerian tapas restaurant. Super proud to now be a Tottenham resident by way of my business. Interesting story how I actually came to open up in Tottenham, and I will touch on that. But just to circle back, 30 odd years ago, I was born and raised on the edge of Essex in East London. Not in a big Nigerian community. I had quite a diverse friendship group, and actually at that from a young age, it was very noticeable that the Nigerian culture, which I wanted to share with my friends, that I enjoyed in my family, I didn't have the opportunity to do so so much outside of my home or my grandmother's home. I think that was ultimately something that was kind of bubbling under the surface for the next 20 odd years, and until I came out the other side with the restaurant. Like Joseph and his time in Kingston, I had the fantastic opportunity to broaden my horizons and breathe fresh air by going to boarding school. It wasn't like being in a prison, although it actually was close to a prison in Winchester. There's a Winchester prison, which is not too far away from the school that I was at. But it was a superb opportunity to really see another way of life, see what was possible, and beyond actually ensuring I made sure I got the grades, which I hope that I may have got even if I stayed where I was in Ilford. It ultimately left me with a way of seeing the world and believing in myself that I could do things bigger than I could before, and ultimately leave a legacy. It also left me with a great responsibility, which I continue to carry to today, and I don't feel it with any weight, but a responsibility knowing as a young Black man, I had this opportunity, and to make the most of it for myself, but also to shine a light for others, and lead a path for those coming behind me. I did go to university. I went to Nottingham University. I studied economics, and as I was at university and doing my degree, it became quite clear that the career that I thought I needed to take was only going to be two. It's either going to end up in banking or consulting. And as Helen mentioned, I ended up going into management consulting. I was a strategy consultant, working in sustainability, so helping clients around their social and environmental impact. But that was after I had a fantastic time in Spain. So I went to go and live in Madrid. I'd made a promise to myself in my first year university when I was actually studying economics and Spanish, and my Spanish was really bad. So I dropped it because it was making a mockery of my grades. That if I had a job lined up at the end of university, that I would go and take the opportunity to go and live in Spain and enjoy the culture out there, and particularly get an opportunity to learn the language and continue enhancing that broadening of my horizons. And as you may already see, that itself has left an impression with me with the idea of tapas, which is kind of what I do with the restaurant. Coming to the restaurant business itself, I was in my career as a consultant, and I was super passionate about rewriting the African narrative, especially in the UK, but globally. How can I leave this world in 50, 80 years and ensure that the continent of Africa was economically more developed, ethically more prominent in the world sphere. And I had this idea that I was going to go over to work in a country, West Africa, most likely Nigeria, and help and change it from like that. It's quite almost colonial mindset, to be honest. And what I actually realized is that's not where my edge is. I know Joseph mentioned before about finding your edge. I think it was super important. I realized that my edge is actually being where I am in the UK, having the broadening of horizons that I have already, and actually taking what I know culturally and being able to share that with people who are not necessarily from my initial background, because I had been able to sit in two different camps growing up. And as such, I became, I see myself as being a bit of an interface between the Nigerian diaspora here and the culture back home, and doing my utmost to ensure that we instill ourselves with a pride of our heritage, and that also have enough pride to then showcase it out to the rest of the world. And in doing so, I hope to make a stand as a businessman that anyone can do it, but critically, actually, people from a Black community in London, from the UK can also very much do it. I'm super passionate about telling my story and the journey to it. So, like Mickela, as I was planning to leave my job, I didn't actually know I was going to leave my job at the time. I just knew something was going to change in my life. I just decided that I actually going to start just saving. I cut down significantly on my outgoings, And then one Tuesday at 10 a.m., I'd been trying out this restaurant idea, not as a restaurant, but initially as a series of supper clubs in my own home. Literally unwitting friends. I would invite them over, friends from different friendship groups, so they didn't really know each other, and just say, "Hey, we're gonna have some dinner." But really, I was trying out this restaurant idea with them. And I was speaking to a supplier, someone who I used to get some drinks from. He said, "When are you going to stop mucking around with this idea, make it real?" And I said, "Nah, I can't do that really. I'm trying to work on my career and certain things." He said, "What's stopping you?" And I didn't really have an answer. And in that palpable silence, it became very clear to me that I needed to step out and go and do this in terms for the mission of creating this legacy, the mission of rewriting this narrative and celebration of culture. And critically, I thought it had superb value for the community at large. So I started off with a series of pop-ups. I say I always from the outset been alongside a superb woman. My younger sister, she's a phenomenal woman, talented business lady, playwright. Super proud of her, and it's been a pleasure to do business with and necessary to have her alongside in all the challenges that we faced, notwithstanding this last year with the pandemic and the lockdowns to restaurant businesses. So we started out with pop-ups. I was in the kitchen chefing. She was in the front of house waiting, the smile, bringing the energy. And over a series of 4 years, we learned the business. We didn't come from the hospitality background. We work shadowed. We got jobs in the industry. We would take jobs and write on our waiter's notice pad notes, and then on our train journeys home from Brixton or West London back to East London, we'd send the notes to each other on email and just become sponges as we tried to understand what we needed to do to go about building our own business. We raised the money. That was a journey itself. That was probably one of the biggest challenges, as many people have already raised on the panel. Capital within the community is not a largesse. It's quite scarce, and there's also at times a scarcity mentality, as Najwa mentioned. So people are maybe as willing to give you a chance. But I suppose what allowed us to push through was we were able to debunk the myth that this was just a fleeting idea. Yeah, 4 years in, when the bros and sisters, not my physical sister, but their friends, still saying, "Oh, I can't believe you're still doing this." We were still doing it, and people started to realize that this was something of substance, and something of real weight that we were absolutely committed and focused to do it. Finding a site was a challenge. We were 2 weeks away from. We looked at hundreds of sites just to start, but we were 2 weeks away from securing our first brick and mortar site, and we were super excited to open our doors to the restaurant in the summer 2019. And then we just found something out in the legal paperwork, and the deal went like that. And my sister and I were in tears, and it was a very sobering moment. And that happened a lot in terms of just trying to find a restaurant site. But fortunately, in the beginning of 2019, we found a place in Tottenham. We fell in love with Tottenham years ago because of the community. It very much chimed with what we were trying to do. We were aware of where the area was trying to go, and want to be part of that as faces for people from the ethnic minority community, the diasporan community, the Black African community in the UK. And so we started on, found this site, had to build it, raise a little bit more finance, and finally, at the beginning of last year, in February last year, we opened our site, and then in March last year, we closed our site because of a pandemic. So it's been a very tough year. One of the challenges, I suppose, which has been a little bit under the radar to the pandemic, is how the Black community has probably been disproportionately affected from a health perspective. As members of our staff, have been affected in both contracting the illnesses and losing family members, and so that's had a significant impact on how we've had to look after people over this last year or so, really about well-being. And I know Mickela mentioned that you're talking about, not just about being a control freak, but this idea that you can't do everything yourself. So you do need a team. And so trying to build a team in this moment where there's been so much uncertainty, not only just because we're new, but because maybe people don't necessarily trust that you as a new restaurant business is going to survive this pandemic. Am I going to come and join your business, and then people are falling ill? That itself has been a big challenge. But yeah, I'll leave that for now. I'm happy to answer any further questions.
Thank you, Emeka. Again, that was just amazing. I didn't even know where to start. Even in the Black society, we've had budding conversations about that conflict between wanting to go home and express our talents that we've obviously built in this country here, and also wanting to make it here as well. So I feel you have that conflict of like not really knowing what to do and finding your edge. So yeah, thank you for that. We have some comments actually from the live stream. So we have inspirational speakers, great lineup. Thank you. They are inspirational. And these people are amazing. I feel so inadequate, which is how I'm feeling right now. But to be honest, they are uplifting me and they are empowering me. And I hope you guys at home are feeling the same. So before we get on to the next round, I have one question that I want to ask all of you guys, because it seems like challenges seems to be a theme, and kind of getting away. So, Mickela, you talked about expression through like sports and stuff like that. So I wanted to know, linking to that, was there a point where you thought kind of like, I can't do this? And if there was a point, how did you kind of overcome that? So we can start with Najwa, and if we can ask to keep our questions quite short, because I don't want us to run out of time. So we'll do Najwa and then we'll do the order again. So Najwa.
So wait, the question is, sorry, can you repeat the question? I was literally...
No problem. Sorry, it's a little bit long-winded. But basically, was there ever a point where you thought like kind of, I can't do this? And if there was, how did you overcome that?
So yeah, no, starting a business during a pandemic is not easy. So I think there were multiple times that I felt like that. But a specific memory that I can remember is I think Christmas Eve, or Christmas Day, I'm not sure which, either one. So I put out like this deal and I was like, get this much for Christmas, for like a Christmas brunch, right? And I didn't think it would get as many orders as it did. So like I was saying earlier about being prepared to succeed and also getting rid of that scarcity mindset. So at that point, I think that's when it really clicked that was an issue for me. Obviously, I'm still quite young and I'm still learning a lot about like a lot of the deeper things that I didn't even realize would affect me, like things like financial literacy, things like not being in an environment like Tottenham, where you don't have as many opportunities as other people. So like even when I used to go to college, I'd hear my friends from East London saying that they'd go to like all of these big events when they were in secondary school, and I was like, I didn't know about any of them. So with this specific experience, it was really tough because I didn't ask for help. And when Mickela was talking, I was resonating on the whole control freak thing, because that is me to a T. Like, I didn't know how to ask for help. So it got to a point where I had to make, like, I think 50 meals by myself in about 3 hours. And I had a complete meltdown. Like, it was really embarrassing. Like, I fully had a panic attack. I couldn't breathe. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, and I had drivers waiting for me to pick up the food and like deliver it to people. And I ceased to exist. Like, I was like, I cannot function. And it was a thing where I did not sleep the whole night because I was trying to prepare for it. So when it came to, so I'd start my shifts at like 5 a.m. When it came to 5 a.m., I had no sleep. So I was running on 0 sleep. It was a recipe for disaster. And from that day, like, I had to really just sit down with myself and be like, you need to ask for help. You have an issue there. Also, just like overcoming the idea that this business is going to get smaller. I think for a lot of people with their businesses in the pandemic is kind of depleted. So I was kind of going off other people's experiences, but for me, it was the complete opposite. So yeah, that was my big crash, burn, fall. And then I had to really just get it together the next day. And yeah, but that was really, really tough. I think it took a real big toll on like my mental health, my self-esteem, because I never knew I could fail that bad. Like, it was a lot. But thankfully, we got out of it and it was fine. Had to just give a lot of people refunds, but it is what it is. It happens.
Thank you, Najwa. And indeed, it is what it is, and we move. Joseph?
So just so I'm clear on the question, it was like feeling like you're gonna fail, right? And not wanting to. Okay, so basically that happens to me on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. Like, I'm just done with this whole thing. Like, every time I have to sit down and edit a podcast, or like when a guest cancels, I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, you don't rate me. It's because I'm not Oprah, innit? It's because I'm not. You wouldn't cancel on Oprah, but you want to cancel on me as if I don't have plans. That's basically what it feels like when people do that. It's like, there's two reasons why I don't stop. Number one, I set myself a target of doing 100 episodes. I set myself a target that big, which meant I had to commit 100 weeks to this thing. So I then needed to become the person who doesn't stop. I put this goal out there, I put this target out there, and I've quit a bunch of things in my life previously. So this thing, I'm going to become someone who doesn't quit. I'm going to become someone who says what they mean and does what they say. So that's rule number one. And then the second thing that keeps me accountable is that this podcast has actually changed people's lives. Like, I was lucky enough to start this and be in a time where a lot of people were financially struggling and needed an outlet, needed to hear certain things, needed to get some information. So one of the listeners, her dad passed away because of COVID, and she had an inheritance tax bill that she didn't know what to do with. The information in the podcast saved her family £100,000 that they got to keep rather than pay to the government. A friend of mine went to uni. He sent me a screenshot. Like, he had been in lockdown for maybe 4 months at this time. He said, because of your podcast, I saved 10 grand. And he was having a baby by the end of the year. I was like, when you hear stories like that, it has me thinking that this is actually getting somewhere. This is actually resonating. And to the point where over 1,000 people are listening to me every single month. I mentioned the Spotify thing at the end of last year, which I had no idea was a thing. But the big issue put me down as a change maker. I started to realize that, okay, this is something. This is catching on. This is adding value. And every week I show up because there's something that may get said, something that may be left on the internet, and someone will see it in 5 years' time, and it'll be the nugget that they needed to go forward. So the fact that I'm too proud to quit at the moment, and the fact that truly is adding value, are the things that keep me going, because otherwise I would be done. Like, literally, I would rather. I'm a naturally lazy person. I am genuinely a naturally lazy person. My default is to not move. and if I could find a way to pay all my bills and be able to drive Bentleys and travel and get everything my fiance wants for this wedding without having to get out of bed, sorted. But that's just not the way life works. So that's how I keep going and try not to quit, basically.
Okay, thank you so much, Joseph. Just because of time, I'm going to have to move on to round 2 of questions. but in the round two, you can incorporate some elements of the question I just asked. So instead, we're going to start with Mickela, since you were supposed to go next. And the next two questions that you have to answer is the impact of the pandemic on your business, and how can we support Black businesses? And then why is the concept of a Black business actually important? And any advice to people wanting to start their own business in Tottenham? And if you can keep your answer quite short, because you don't want to run out of time. But thank you, Mickela.
No problem. So with regards to the impact on the business, we work heavily with schools. So when schools closed, obviously income stopped flowing. So 65% of our incomes comes from schools. So you can imagine how much we kind of lost out in that phase. And then also we turn over a lot of money during the holiday camps, the school holidays at our holiday camp. So we went from, say, having a max camp at 120 to having a max of 20 participants. So that really affected us. And then even when we went back into normal or was allowed to work in schools again, only 16% of our previous clients wanted us back. So it was hard, it was very difficult. Even more important or challenging was the fact that we had to turn our backs or close our doors on the young people that we aim to serve. So again, if we were online, even though we switched to online delivery, say we had 20 young people signing in, that was nothing compared to, say, the 3,000 that would reach a week. So it had a massive impact on us. But saying that, there was a lot of background work which I was able to do, and a lot of organizations had got in contact with us and done some impact stories with us, and that has really allowed us to gain grants and donations and a lot of support in kind from other organizations. So whereas, say, mid lockdown or mid last year, it was like, oh my God, how is this going? Help save our organization. Now it looks like we're in a really strong position, just because there's been a lot of groundwork that's been done and things that have been put in place to kind of like tell our story, show our impact, and really restructure and rethink how we're going to run the business. With regards to supporting Black businesses, with ours being like a service, I think it is by like following us on social, reposting and sharing our content or stuff that we have coming up. That doesn't cost anything. But then also, if, like, say you have a young person that is interested in attending our sessions, some of our sessions are free of charge as well. So like just sending them down to that and allowing us to continue our impact. And obviously the more impact that we have, the more support we're going to get from other organizations, and it's kind of like us being successful as a business. Other things, I suppose, include like just sharing information. So like if a grant was coming up, or if there's an organization that we could partner with, like just knowledge is power. So whenever somebody has any information to share, I'm very keen and accepting of this information. And then moving on to why the concept of Black owned businesses are important. I think representation is very important, and role models and having that authentic voice. If you see somebody doing something, so something that's people have touched on this call already, being from Tottenham, you might not think that having a business is something that you can have. Owning a home might not be something that you can have. When you see people in these positions and people that look like you feel more empowered. It's like, oh well, if she can do it, I can do that. Like this girl, she's like 5 foot nothing, she got gold tooth in her mouth, she talks with a little bit of slang, but she got a first-class degree and a master's, and she runs a business, and she's you know what I mean? So I think it's very important to be that authentic voice. And I think as well, with me working with children, I find that in some schooling situations, because there's the cultural differences, they're not going to get the children or be able to relate to the children and work with them in a way that I am particularly able to, especially growing up in Tottenham, and having that connection with the borough. And that if obviously if a child kissed their teeth at me, I'll tell them off, but then I'm not probably going to be as strict as another teacher who probably doesn't get that. It might have just come out by accident, or just a little like like I'm not going to be as hard. It will be like yeah, sorry, I'm not going to waffle on a bit too much. I think having a purpose with regards to advice, having a purpose and knowing what you want to achieve and having focus is very important, as it allows you to stay motivated and continue on your journey. Having an outlet so you don't become overwhelmed, like I said, with regards to burning out. Networking, I find, is absolutely crucial. I started it a lot late and a lot later than I should have, and I kick myself all the time. So building up a strong network, having someone that's accountable. If you can get like a mentor, that is brilliant, but having that accountable person to kind of like just keep you in check, to just make sure you're hitting your targets. Also be inspired, read, listen to podcasts, traveling, plug for you, Joseph. Traveling, I feel like, not just traveling, research, basically, I should say, just research in your industry, having experience of what you want to get into, so you know whether it's for you. Because again, like, this is, you're there for the long haul, and you're going to have the moments where you don't want to continue, or it's going to be difficult. And if that passion, that drive, that goal, that motivation isn't there, it's going to make it really difficult. So yeah, have a support system. And I can talk for ages, so next.
Thank you, Mickela. Thank you very much. Okay, next is Emeka.
Let me just remind myself of the question so I make sure I answer the right one. Okay, so what challenges have we faced in particular during the pandemic, correct? Is that the question, Rachel? Yeah, cool. Well, we're a restaurant, so no one's been dining out of restaurants, so that's been pretty rubbish, to be honest. Yeah, that's a quite obvious impact. We closed the restaurant 5 weeks after opening the restaurant, which, as I mentioned before, had been 4 years in the planning. 1 year of negotiations on the site, and then 3 months of building work. So yeah, it was really tough. One of the questions before was about getting started in a business, or keeping yourself going, and I think one of the key things is really preparation. I think you can prepare. Obviously, people talk about preparing for success, but I think also being prepared for failures, and for down moments in business in particular. Whilst I'm perennially optimistic about life and where I'm going with the business, I think we also have to lay some foundations for things which may not go to plan. So we did a crowdfunder in 2019, so the year before we opened, because we realized that actually when we open the restaurant, we need to actually not only just survive, just get open, we actually then need to survive, and we may not be hitting our numbers from day one, and we needed a bit more working capital, or just buffer, should I say. And well, we didn't know we were going to need it straight away, but obviously with the lockdown, that's allowed us to survive. There was a significant financial impact, but we have made it by the Lord's grace. We've made it to this today, and where not all restaurants have, and we're actually in possibly a better position from a brand perspective than where we were last year. I touched on that. Why? We didn't stop during the lockdown. As Joseph mentions, I think it's imperative that you just keep finding ways to keep going. And we knew the value of what we do, of providing a space for people to enjoy the culture and to socialize. And so we took that to the online sphere, and we hosted virtual supper clubs, we hosted virtual movie nights showcasing Nigerian movies. We started an interview series showcasing like prominent Nigerians based in the UK or abroad who had just had some interesting things to say, like people who were doctors, people who were the guys who shoot music videos for the likes of Wizkid. It's just inspirational people that we thought it would be great to kind of share their stories. And we also then eventually set up our own delivery business, selling our food, and we're able to now deliver it nationwide, which has been amazing to have people in Scotland and Wales and, you know, Oxford and Peterborough and other places around the UK, which I've never even heard of till I saw their postcode, enjoying our food from our little restaurant in Seven Sisters. So off the back of all that, during the lockdown, we were actually, or the lockdowns, should I say, we were able to still kind of grow the business from a brand perspective, people getting a better understanding, as Helen mentioned, that, you know, we're not just only about food, we're about more than that. We're about socializing, we're about, you know, the cultural value and building community at the same time. So that was amazing. The next question was how we can support Black-owned businesses, or specifically my business, coming to dine out in a restaurant, whether if you're not even in the local area, being able to now order online. I think, as Mickela touched on, you know, there's much easier ways as well, much more, you know, ways which don't even cost anything. Sharing information, being part of a network. If there's somebody that you know that you think they could help the business, maybe they're a drink supplier, maybe they're a chef, maybe we want to be a waiter. You know, we're always looking to grow our team, and then also just providing a platform for us. And what I mean by this is, when we did our crowdfund, I remember a lot of people, friends saying, "Oh, you know, we need to reach out to X celebrity and like Skepta. We need to reach out to, you know, Anthony Joshua and prominent Nigerians like this, who, you know, have done amazing things and are greats in their field." But we said, like, actually, everybody is a celebrity in their own community, in their own network. So actually, if you came to the restaurant, or you just heard about the restaurant, if it was a great idea, and sharing that with 5 people or 10 people, that's just as valuable as, you know, us having a big celebrity talking about the business. Because ultimately, the value comes from you know, everyday people enjoying what we're doing. And as Joseph touched on, that's actually where we get our own fuel from. You know, when we see. Last week we had a family who came down from the Cotswolds, and there were 2 girls, couldn't be no bigger than 10. They love their food, and they end up getting a photo of me. And, you know, for me, you know, to be able to have been partaking that moment in their life, that memory which may stay with them for, you know, how long, who knows how long, that's just a proud moment. And something I've kind of given to the world, and something that, you know, fuels us in those difficult moments, which there are. Why is the concept of Black-owned business important? Mickela hit the nail on the head. The representation. It's about changing the mindset of people who think that, you know, we cannot, to go into we can. And I think that's super important, and realizing that building a business also isn't building the next Facebook. It's not necessarily building the next Google. You know, a business is, you know, creating value for society in many different ways, and it doesn't have to be this next big unicorn that's going to be floating on some stock exchange somewhere. And there's many ways to kind of be creative around building a business. So and then the advice to anyone in the Tottenham community thinking about starting their own business. I think this is for anybody starting their own business. As I mentioned before about finding your edge, I think having the passion, making sure it really is a passion, because you're going to find continuous challenges that are going to want to make you to stop, or you're going to have to find a way to overcome that, and linking the mission to that passion so that you can continue to stay fueled. And then fundamentally making sure there's value, obviously not just financial value, and financial value for yourself, like you're putting your own time into this. Don't get confused. You're building a business. It's not just about having a hobby. There needs to be a way that you're going to be able to sustain your life, because there's nothing worse than running a business and then realizing you can't pay your own bills, and then you can't continue in that business. So finding value for yourself, but finding value for your community or whoever you're trying to serve, And then once you find that community, ensure that you continue to serve them because they do feel touched by it. That's me.
Thank you so much, Emeka. So as we are running out of time, I'm just going to ask Joseph to give a 1-minute answer about the highlight of your career. If you could keep it to 1 minute, and then Najwa after a 1 minute on the same question as well. Just 1 minute, guys.
The highlight of my career has been actually doing the work and serving thousands of people, making sure that I'm delivering information to people around the world who need it. So that's the highlight, knowing that it matters, knowing that it makes a difference.
Love that, short and sweet. Najwa?
I think the highlight of my business was the one time when a customer reached out to me and told me that her mum, who hadn't left her bed in months because her brother had died from corona, got out of bed to have her brunch, and she got all dressed up for it, and she was really happy about it. So that was a really, really big highlight for me.
Thank you, Najwa. What a lovely way to finish it off as well. Okay, I'm going to pass it on to Mr. Inido to get the closing.
Hi, everyone. It's just been great to kind of sit here and listen. I think Rachel has had the harder end of the job, but like you guys have just been delivering gems and gems and gems and talking about challenges. I've just been here writing some of what you guys have said to just kind of feed back to everyone, because I think it's just been really kind of reflective things that people need to take away from this. So let me just jump on my Word document. In terms of gems, I think I wanted to kind of share some of the things you guys have said. You guys have said, if I wasn't preparing for my success, I was preparing for my failure. You talked about how university broadened your perspective. You talked about the responsibility to shine a light for others. Joseph significantly said that thing about how he set himself a target of 100 podcasts. I need to finish this. Often, you know, we start things, but we don't finish. A lot of you on the call talked about how representation is important, and it's important to be that authentic voice. In the midst of this, you talked about challenges from, you know, the communities you come from, how, you know, your sister said, Joseph, in this family, we go to university. And that made me laugh because, yeah, that's a conversation I definitely had at home with my mum. You talked about how in the midst of loss, you had to kind of focus on your goal. A lot of you talked about how you had to save, like from your kind of daily income, your monthly income, you had to kind of get money together and kind of focus and work towards your goal. So thinking about that perseverance, and a lot of this was happening for you guys in the midst of disappointment of losing, you know, the kind of shops that you thought were the ideal kind of location, or front, if you like, for your restaurants. Emeka kind of mentioned. And in the midst of that, again, of Corona happening, I remember when your restaurant actually opened, Emeka, my wife and I came and had some food, and as you said, weeks or months later, it was closed. But in the midst of that, pivoting and thinking of, you know, how else can you serve the community? You spoke about finding value for yourself and the community you serve. So these are lots of kind of points I think that are quite, for me, even as I was sitting here, I was thinking, I need to put this up on a poster somewhere. Like I need to kind of reflecting on these things, because often, like yourselves, you know, we all kind of have moments where we think, actually, you know, I started this, but you know, it's not working out. I need to kind of move and do something else. But just even persevering and seeing it through in the midst of kind of the communities we come from, the challenges and everything that we kind of face. So it's amazing to kind of see and learn from you guys this evening. And yeah, it's just incredible. And I hope like everyone on this call this evening has kind of picked something, even if it's one thing. I hope you've taken something away that kind of resonates with you and resonates with the kind of journey that you're on, whatever that may be. I want to just thank everyone who's attended today. Miss Drummond, I feel like we're at London Academy of Excellence. Helen Drummond on the call, Rachel, who's facilitated this event fantastically, Najwa Umran, Joseph Nwosu, Emeka Frederick, Mickela Hall-Ramsay. I don't know if you guys want to quickly just plug your businesses quickly before you kind of jump off. Up to you if you want to, or people have kind of heard, but quick kind of plug before we kind of round up.
Yeah, so Black Millennial Money on all platforms. Black Millennial
Money
on all platforms.
We'll be waiting for.
Yeah. Go for it, Joseph. Go for it.
Black Millennial Money on all platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, I've been commenting, so you can just click like straight up from over there. And yeah, Emeka, I think you're next.
Yeah, Chukwu's, the world's first Nigerian tapas restaurant. That's at CHUKUSLDN, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Spotify, and we also have the YouTube Chukwu's Chat series as well. We're based in. Sorry?
I was going to say basically everywhere, but carry on.
Everywhere. But we are physically in Seven Sisters on the High Road. Red building, white sign, can't miss us.
Najwa or Mickela?
Yeah, my business, Breakfast at Najwa's, you can find us on all social media platforms. We're mainly on Instagram, so if you can head over and just, say hi.
And it's at HR Sports Academy, so H and an R like my surname, and then Sports, SPORTS Academy.
Fantastic. Helen, did you want to say anything? So
No, I just want to stop the live stream so I can be on time and feel satisfied about that one role that I had. But I've had an amazing time. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone.
We'll take it offline, guys. We can have a good love in now. All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending. We hopefully you'll see us again. I'm going to share this video everywhere with every school because everyone should watch it, and hopefully